Hello and welcome to the skating lesson. Today, I'm thrilled to interview Kristen Fraser and Igor Lukanin, 9-time world competitors, 2-time Olympians. If it weren't for Igor, you would have gone to the Olympics 3 times. So welcome to the skating lesson.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you for blaming me.
Yes, it's true. I heard the story. So, all right. So we just had a workout class tonight, Igor. You've both been doing a lot of classes, some mornings start with Kristen conditioning, then we go to, Zach Donahue doing activation. I still don't really know what that is. We do Victor jumps, then we're stretching, then we're working out with Aliona. So what the heck was tonight's class, Igor?
Well, I was trying to explain to you at the end of the class, when you do something for a long time and you do it a lot, like when the ice was there and we used to skate the whole day long, and then I would end up choreographing for like 6 months for all our students. You kind of dream of choreography, you can't help it, just you dream of what you do on a daily basis. And now, because we've been doing all those classes, that's what I have been dreaming of. And, my brain just kind of start to work, trying to figure out the new exercises for you guys so you're not bored, and that's what you're getting.
So did you want to coach? I guess, how did you get into skating and, walk us through the whole start?
I like coaching. I like teaching in general, but I like coaching. And when we were skating, I was already coaching. I started coaching when I was 19. When I was in Germany, when I skated for Germany, that's when I started coaching. Maybe I was 20, not quite sure. And then it kind of just stayed with me when I moved to US. I coached a little bit, and then I started coaching more and more towards the end of our career. And I would say for the last 2 years of our skating, I was coaching 5 to 6 hours a day. And, I just liked it. And then we stopped skating. It's kind of, our skating kind of grew into coaching. And we, for the last year of our skating, we already coached some teams, and Kristen was the director at the rink. So, it's kind of just flow from one thing into the other.
So I know Kristen always lets us know that she did figures and you didn't. So I wanted to get into some of your backgrounds through skating, how you both wound up in ice dance, Azerbaijan. So I guess, Kristen, how did you start?
I started in park and recreation skating when I was 7 years old. I was actually kind of, old for today's standards, definitely anyway. I wanted to be a baton twirler. And no, I know, but I did. I have no hand-eye coordination whatsoever. And so they pretty much told my parents to help me choose something else. So next I chose voice lessons. I did that for about 3 months, and they called my parents in and told me to pick something else. My parents were like, wow, this kid, poor kid, she's got nothing to do. So I chose figure skating, and I hated it. I hated going every day. And then one day it just clicked. And I started out in Ontario, California, at an ISI rink. I did everything. I did kaleidoskate. I did a duo. I did a trio. I did production. I did everything. And then I changed to Paramount Ice House, and I took from Darlene Gilbert. Sandra Holmes was my figures coach. The Yelchin family, Irina and Victor, did my singles and pairs. And I just kind of stayed there until I was about 16. I skated with Peter Conchasm, who is an extremely talented single skater. He skated for Thailand late in his career and decided to stop ice dancing. And so from there, I kind of moved across the country seeking, partner after partner, until I ended up at US Nationals one year. I was taking from Natalia Anenko, and she and Genrik Swietensky had been partners for obviously their entire career. And she said, do you know a girl? She said, yes, take this one. Not in a bad way, but she knew that I wasn't in like my perfect situation. So I went and I tried out with Igor. That was right after US Nationals in 1999.
April 2000.
Right, but right after like the 99 season. And then I ended up moving. He picked me, so I moved to Maryland.
So now you were telling us that you both started in singles. You were too fat, so they made you ice dance, which is
no, I was a little too chubby for single skating standards in Soviet Union in our skating school in Sverdlovsk, back then it called Sverdlovsk. So I was asked to leave the school and come back when I'm a little lighter. Mm-hmm. So I left, and then I started to work out at home in the morning before school, and then run in the park before I had to go to school, you know, and Sverdlovsk is a pretty cold city in the winter. So that was fun. But then I lost some weight, and then they took me back. But I was lucky enough to come back right at the time when Oleg Epstein came back to Sverdlovsk from Dnipropetrovsk, and he was trying to gather the ice dance group together. And so he picked me, and Alexei Gorshkov just started coaching. He's just retired from skating, and he started coaching, and Oleg took Alexei as a second coach. So Alexei was my direct coach. And that's how I started an ice dance. And, you know, Oleg and Alexei were amazing coaches. And now I'm here.
Now, I've heard rumors that you were not the best in practice, but that you could do anything in competition. That one of your coaches said that, from Jonathan Miguelnik. So how did this click for you?
I was a little bit lazy. And I had I think you can probably attest to, I had a very good motor behind me. So every day, like for instance, Nikolai would say, okay, do 2 patterns of this and 2 patterns of that, and do pieces of your OD, and then your practice can be over. So I would do all of that, and I'd work really hard, and they'd be really good. I'd be exhausted. I would start to get my guards and leave the ice, and he was like, where are you going? We have to do twizzles 82 times and another 4 patterns. And I'm like, but he told us to do that, and I did that. So I love to compete. I love to perform. And I think that was something that I was always good at, because I enjoyed it. That was what I craved. I loved getting dressed up. I loved spending an hour doing my hair and my makeup before each practice and each competition. That was what was exciting for me. That's how I got through all of his training, was knowing that in 6 weeks we would go to China, or in 2 months we would go to Europeans. That's how I got through having this guy.
But you also studied sports psychology, right? So is that how you wound up having affinity for that? And I guess, when did you study sports psychology?
I didn't start my master's degree until well after we quit skating. So we quit skating in 2009. And I had finished my bachelor's, I think, in about 2004, 2005. And I always knew, when we first started skating together in Maryland, for whatever reason, I think, I lived on my own. It was my first time really, truly living on my own. I was 19 years old. When I was 18 in Texas, I lived with a family. So I was away from my family, but I wasn't on my own. So Maryland was the first time I was on my own. And I think part of me had a lot of fun. Igor and I were very good friends, and his roommate and some skaters, we hung out together and things like that, but I didn't really have parents there. And so maybe I would go a little while without talking to my parents or whatever. So they decided that they wanted me to see a sports psychologist, because they thought that I was, unhappy there. And the sports psychologist kind of, and I get it now going through the program, but things that she was saying and things that she was, kind of blaming my thoughts and feelings on, I completely disagreed with. And so I always thought that was not a very trustworthy profession. Maybe they didn't know what they were talking about, or something to that effect. So when we quit skating, I knew that was something I was very interested in. Igor had a very, very close friend of ours, and a student, and a mentor that is a professor at NYU. And she got me a couple of meetings with people in different various programs there. And I really thought heavily about going into NYU and getting my master's in sports psychology and counseling psychology. But at that point, like Igor said, we had already been working for 2 years. We had already been working while we were competing. I was already the director. I had been the director for almost 2 years. And it was a very hard decision. We knew we wanted to get married. We knew we wanted to have kids. You know, there's only so much time when you're already 30, you know, when you compete for most of your life and you're already 30, there's only so much time left in the day. So I put everything on hold for a little while, kind of found a master's program that I was comfortable with, and then finally did get my master's in sports psychology.
So I guess, how did you blend your technique? Because you're from California, he's from Russia. Like, how different was, you know, I guess your skating technique?
I think our technique was very different.
I won't say anything.
I know. I think our technique was very different. I had a lot of work to do, technically. And it wasn't anything that my coaches ever did wrong. It's just that's how I grew up, and that's where I was at that time. And I was very fortunate throughout my career with Igor to work with some extremely talented coaches, Genrik Stratensky, Alexander Zhulin, Nikolai Morozov. I mean, I think that we worked with some of the best Russian coaches, I mean, even still today, and really helped bring my technique. And obviously, looking back now, ice dancing isn't what it was. You know what I mean? It's totally different now. I mean, our Choctaws went in straight lines, but that wasn't necessarily our fault. That was just the technique of the time.
So I guess, who was the leader in the team? Because,
you know, Dave, I knew you're gonna ask that. You know how I knew? Because everyone asks us that, and we don't know. We've been skating and working together for 20 years now, and I don't think we have a leader. We kind of know what our weaknesses and strengths are, and we listen to each other. I know that I can do what she does, and at the same time, she knows that she can do what I do, and she kind of lets me do what I need to do, and then I move it to her, and then she finishes she finishes it.
I think we're both very, very strong personalities. And I think that we both have definite traits that are type A and leader. Therefore, like, for instance, he always says, come on, come out with me. I'm going to go do their choreography. And I just know that that's not good, because he is a very creative person and he's very good at what he does. But like you said, if I tell him that he's doing it wrong, then things kind of explode and we get nowhere. So like he said, he does his job, and then when he feels that he's gotten it to where he can get it, then I try
like
and
the
manipulate
constructive criticism. I don't like,
and I'm not good at constructive
I don't like when someone tells me that's not good.
okay,
I need to know why it's not good and how to make it better. That's what I'd like to hear. Yeah.
When you moved from Spielbahn to then competing internationally, was that a huge adjustment for you? Yeah.
huge.
Okay.
Have you heard the story about my first Europeans?
No. So.
All right. So
we had the silver samba, and I loved it because I was doing my moves and I was doing everything. Go ahead.
We get on the ice for the warm-up for silver samba, and we are on the ice with Ilya Averbuch and Lobachova, Barbara Fuzarpoli, like, you know, big people, and Kristen just like almost crying. So anyways, we get through the warm-up, and I think we skated either first or second, I don't remember. So we started going through our introduction steps, and we do left, right. Kristen catches the topics, falls down, left.
So hard.
Before we even got to the first step of the pattern. But then somehow, I don't even know.
He picked me up. He literally like picked me up and carried me, and we did left and right, and 1, 2, 3, and we picked it up right on time. We didn't lose. I mean, I lost, but we didn't lose a beat. We started on the correct beat, so we didn't get a musical deduction.
Then we get to the free program. We get on the warm-up, and I see that she is pretty much just about to cry.
No, I cried.
Not on the warm-up.
No, on the warm-up, I cried. Forward circle, crossover, bawling.
So we get through the warm-up, and I'm like, okay, you know, maybe actual program won't be as bad. So we got on the position, the music starts, we do first, 15 seconds, and she starts bawling.
I'm gonna still do my steps.
During the competition.
Oh, yeah.
During the competition, after 30 seconds, and I'm thinking, I still have 4 minutes to go. How are we gonna do that? So that was fun.
And this was me thinking that I knew that I loved to compete, right? Like, I loved to perform. So like, I was so excited. I was at Europeans. Like, this is gonna be amazing. And yeah, it was, and I can't even tell you, I mean, I could tell you that I was nervous, but I couldn't even tell you that I was so nervous that I was going to be like incapacitated. Like it was, you know what I mean? Like one of those out of body experiences. And we got in the kiss and cry, and Genrikh sat on that side and he sat on that side, and they both kind of like looked at me, and I sat there, and then I think I was smiling.
And I was very tired.
Over it.
I remember I was very tired.
I loved Salt Lake City. So Salt Lake City, well, actually both Olympics, but Salt Lake City, I felt was just an amazing experience as a games. I think that all the volunteers were excited to be there and happy and helpful. Every single person that you ran into in the Olympic Village or the surrounding area, I think that they were just so happy to be involved in that 2002 Olympics that it made you feel really, really special, you know, as an athlete.
Salt Lake City in general, it was the last Olympics when the Olympic village was one. There was only one village for all the sports. So you're just walking through that, you know, amount of athletes from different disciplines. We're creating, you felt the magnitude of the event. You felt how great that is. Olympic Games, you know, it's like the space, the stadium. We were competing at the basketball stadium. So, it, you know, it's 50 something.
Delta, yeah.
Right, 50 something thousand arena. It's huge. And then Italy, everything was so smaller. You know, like the Olympic Village was small.
And disorganized. It was just, everybody had their own set of rules. You never knew what to expect. One day you had to go through secondary screening. My grandfather, who had like a pacemaker and a this, that, and the other thing, they were, you know, patting him down. And it was just, I don't know, I think it was a negative experience. It didn't feel special at all. I mean, in Salt Lake City, and not that, I mean, as a female figure skater, I know I've heard you say before, we shouldn't be, or aren't usually that centered on food, but you go to the Olympic Games, and in 2002, they had a huge food hall, and everything was healthy. Like you could get anything you wanted, chicken breast, you know, you could get anything. And in Italy, we lived off of McDonald's, and not good McDonald's, because the food was just terrible. So I would have like a chocolate muffin and a latte, and like, that's what I got, unless I wanted a Big Mac, which I didn't want a Big Mac. So, you know, it was just, it didn't feel special at all to me.
So in 2002, you did not have the dramatic free dance. And this was like the height of Russian drama. You have like Anisina skating to like Martin Luther King with like no irony. And you have like Lobachova and Alverbuk who are like, have the lift that looks like it's like the Twin Tower falling. Like, and what was with your program? It was not, you know.
We just knew, you know, it was our second season together. And in ice dancing, you have to gain the experience, you have to gain the trust of the judges. You know, you have to be consistent, not just for one season or 2 seasons, but you have to stay there for a while and improve your skill and level of skating, and just develop your own style in order to become a very solid ice dance team. And we just didn't have that mileage behind us, you know, so we were just kind of literally having fun, I think, at that point. Yeah.
And I think we were a little bit like homemade looking at that point. And at no fault of anybody, and not a lack of resources. It was just like Igor said, we were just, I think, new, and we were kind of following our leaders at that point, who were trying their very best. And really, Genrikh and his wife were just so supportive of us. And I mean, they brought us together, but we were just new.
We were fresh.
You looked like a very innocent ice dance team.
Yeah, pretty much.
With potential, you know.
I don't know. I was watching your 2005 free dance, and it didn't look like the same people. I mean, Kristen had like hair that was chopped off, and she had that like Russian bleach blonde dye job, and like a dress where half of it was missing, and it was zebra print. I mean, that was a real look, you know?
Well, that was Julin's influence. And when we started with Julin, yeah, I mean, he really did push us and take us to a whole nother level as far as choreography, for sure. I mean, and the musicality of his choreography, I think, was what kind of
creativity
really took us to the next level. And yeah, again, costuming, you know, we were using Lanique in Manhattan, and just there was no detail that went unnoticed. And whether it was your taste or not, you know, you never know. You can't win everyone, right? But they really, I think they were cutting edge at that time anyway.
So Kristen moved to New Jersey while I was in Russia, and then I came back on the 4th of July, 2004. 2004, I came back. And then we started skating with Julien, then we went through the whole season, and we went to Torino Europeans in 2005. And after Torino, before Moscow, my visa was expiring, so I had to fly back to Russia to renew my visa. So when I went back to Russia right after Torino, I went into the American consulate in my city, and the same story happened again. And now once they scanned my passport, they saw that I'm on the wanted list, and they called the Russian forces. They came, interrogated me, let me out after 3 hours, took my passport, said, you can leave the country. So you have to stay inside the country until we clear you, because at that point, I think the person whom I was mistaken for was on a global list. So, and then Kristen came to Moscow again. And we trained in Novogorsk.
Do you know Russian at all at that point?
Yeah, no. And that's why it was so hard the first time that I had gone. I mean, the first time that I went, we were still 1, 2, 3, 4 clicking to write text messages. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? There wasn't Wi-Fi. You know what I mean? I had books. Like I had to sit, not that I shouldn't sit and read now, but you know what I mean? Like I didn't have an iPad. I couldn't watch Netflix. I was in a room. So it was a 2-bedroom apartment that we were staying in. And the 2 bedrooms being a bedroom and then like a living room, which they use as a bedroom. So I would shut myself into one room, and that's where I would be from 5 p.m. when we got home at the end of the training day until 5 a.m. the next day. You know, it was lonely. It was hard.
Who were you skating with in Russia then? Who was coaching you before Worlds? Is that Julien went with you to Russia, or?
The second time?
Yeah.
Yeah, the second time is when we were in Novogorsk, and and Julien was there because NAFCA was there. So because whenever the Russian team went to train, you know, to get acclimated, and so he was able to take everybody with him. I mean, we obviously had to pay. We weren't, you know, on the Russian roster, but Galit and Sognovsky were there, and us, and so
maybe Ilyinik there at that point. Were Ilyinik and Nikita with him, or no?
No, they were babies then. Babies.
They were babies.
Yeah, but who did they skate with when they were babies? They were
Averbuch.
Oh, okay.
So after Moscow Worlds, Kristen went back to United States, and I didn't have my visa yet, so I couldn't leave yet. And that's when, actually before Worlds, when we were in Novogorsk training for Worlds, Ilya came and he was signing the contract with Roman Kostomarov for his Siberian tour. And Roman was still skating during his practice, and I was in the room changing, and Ilya was sitting and talking to me, and I told him my story. And he's like, listen, I'm looking for someone. What are you going to do after Worlds? I'm like, well, I will, you know, have to sit in Russia and wait until I will get my visa. He's like, don't you want to take care of my school while we are traveling a Siberian tour? I'm like, sure, great. And that's when I worked with Ilya, Alena and Nikita. And I think Alena was 7 maybe, and Nikita were 9, and they were like the cutest kids ever. It was so much fun working with them. It was them. It was Zhiganshina, you know, skated for Germany later.
Yes.
Her brother, who was like
Ruslan,
he was like little. You know, they had an amazing group of little kids back then. And I worked with them for 2 months while Ilya and Irina were on tour until I got my visa, and then I went back to the United States.
So you competed through Torino. So did you think like after that point to Olympics you were good, or like what made you want to keep going? Yeah, both of you, you know, but you are a team at this point.
We always, no, I know, but as much as we were together, we still had our own. Yeah. I mean, I think we always wanted to get, I hate to say these words because it just sounds so horrible, but we always wanted to get what we felt like we deserved.
We wanted more, and we knew we have it in us. Mm-hmm. Even though I was 30, I didn't feel 30. Mm-hmm. You know, I didn't feel that I'm 30 years old. I felt like I'm 22, 23. I felt like I'm in the best shape of my life. I can finally understand why am I doing that, and I can finally feel that I like it. Mm-hmm. And I knew that I could get further, and I knew that Kristen is the partner for me, and I can do it with her because it just worked. You know, it felt like it's the perfect situation for me. Yeah, so I don't know, Kristen probably was a little bit different in her thoughts about that, but that was my motivation. I knew that I can get there because the situation what I'm in is perfect for that.
But it was never, I think it was never a thought in our mind that we would quit. We were happy doing what we did.
So then you work with Kolya, who's an interesting guy. So I guess like what was different between him and Julien?
With Nikolai, it was more freedom.
Yeah.
Sasha's
a very good technician.
Right.
He taught me how to do cross rolls. And when I tell you, completely broke them down and like beat it into you. I mean, we did cross rolls for the Paso Doble. I couldn't even tell you how many hours a day. I thought I would just scream. So he was a very, very good technician.
Right, but at the same time, he didn't give you a lot of choices. He knew what he wants, and he would keep you on this route, and it worked. You know, for where we were at that time. But then with Nikolai, we already different people and different skaters. We already experienced. You know, we already went to 2 Olympics. We already were at top 10 at Europeans for 3 or 4 times. You know, we already got 30th at Worlds for 2 or 3 times. So when we went to Nikolai, it was first it was very strange because all of a sudden you like do whatever, you know. But then he would still guide you. He still would. What do you want from music? And we would bring him ideas. He's like, yeah, no, let's do this. What do you want to do with costume? Go and do it. So we would go and kind of try to figure it out. And then we would come back to Nikolai, like, Nikolai, you know, we need a little bit of guidance. He's like, well, try this. And we would go and try that. And then we would still using his, you know, shoveling. He was shoveling us through, but he wasn't taking us through the highway. He was kind of like, there were a lot of exits. And in order for you to appreciate Nikolai and grow from him, you already had to be an experienced skater, you know? So I don't think that someone who would be like us in 2004 would benefit from Nikolai as much as us being 5 years later, you know? Because we already had our vision and Nikolai just like polished it and sent it into the right direction. The 2 situations, Sasha and Nikolai, were totally different. And I have to thank Nikolai for teaching us, especially me, how to become a coach. Because with Nikolai, you were forced to find solution to your own problems. You wouldn't just go to Nikolai and say, and he would tell you, you need to do this, and that. So you won't just show up at the practice and don't worry about anything else. So you had to worry about music, costumes, choreography, like pretty much everything. You know, he would still at the end, if he sees that you are struggling, he would help you. But there was that freedom that if you actually know what you're trying to do, it's very beneficial for you to grow as an athlete and as a person and as a coach in the future. You know?
When you transitioned to coaching, was it were you sad to not be competing, or were you ready to be done at that point?
I was not ready to be done.
Yeah.
I was sad. I didn't watch skating for a full year.
Okay.
Well, definitely for a year at least. I certainly did not watch that Olympics. I couldn't even tell you what happened then.
She was crying every time the skating was on TV.
Yeah. But I mean, we jumped kind of right into, I mean, obviously not high level, but we jumped right into having national competitors, US national competitors in singles and ice dancing. So we jumped right into, you know, what some coaches would consider in the US, you know, a successful, you know, career just starting out. Like we jumped right into it. And so I liked coaching at that point. I mean, it was exciting to travel with your students and things like that. You know, only now do you want to just sit at home and watch TV a little bit. I mean, not now. Now I'm ready to go to work again. But
yes.
A couple months ago, I was ready to not travel and just sit down and watch a little TV. We're fortunate enough to be able to work with skaters who don't believe in themselves. And maybe it's because of my degree in sports psychology, I don't know, or maybe just what led me, like you asked, to sports psychology, to just help those skaters believe in themselves. I mean,
so how do you think your skaters will be after the break? Do you think that they will be more physically fit based on your classes now? Or, you know, what are your like expectations for when you...
I think our dancers are going to be in good shape.
Yeah.
But because they're the ones that are really, I mean, I would like to not say that ice dancers are harder workers, but I think that, like Igor said, we're used to putting on the hour, putting the hours in on the ice. And I think, therefore, I think it's evident in our class attendance. Most of our ice dancers are taking, 3 and 4 classes a day minimum and running on their own. I mean, the skaters that we have from other coaches that are doing their coaches classes in addition to our coaches classes, I mean, you can see the dedication and you can see, the physicality. I think that they will, reap the benefits. I think that some of our single skaters who aren't doing as much, I think it's going to take some time to, because it is, like I said, all about timing. And if you can't feel that timing when you get back onto the ice, there's going to be a meltdown and a rebuild. And so I think it's going to be.
And are you going to keep up your classes once the ice opens up? I mean, now we are like ripped people, what is?
We will. We're talking about every day, and I think the whole concept of that came to us by surprise, and I would always want to say, like, by accident. We're starting with something in mind, and
it's my idea.
It was.
You knew before the ice closed. You told me that we were going to do it. Yeah.
I just had a feeling, like I said to him,
no, it was Kristen's idea, and I just executed it.
Yeah. No, definitely. I have great ideas.
And Ravi Walia is always asking about your classes, how they get these people, what are they doing, yeah. So
who does? Sorry?
Ravi, who does in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
We coaches, and here's the thing, when we were on the ice the whole day long, you want to have a hip hop class, you want to have this class, and you want to have that class, but that skaters will have to travel 1 hour, 2 hours to New York to get those dance classes, or someone will have to come back, and then we're talking about cost involved. There are always obstacles. What was stopping us from getting all those great people who would help our skaters, and now thanks to that, that obstacle disappeared now. And as long as we know what we want to find, and we find those great people, and we connect with them, it works great.
Mm-hmm. What are you going to do your stroking class in the morning? Because we're supposed to have a real edge class now.
Well, we're definitely going to have that, because I don't think we're going to have learn to skate anytime soon on the ice.
Yeah,
I think learn to skate's going to be a bit behind everything else. Yeah, and that's why when we started this out, we didn't know what everyone's financial situation was. We knew what our financial situation was, and we wanted to help keep everybody motivated and keep things affordable. I mean, we wanted our skaters to do as many classes as they possibly could, because we wanted everybody, to stay going and stay interested. I think a lot of our classes are interesting. We do them. When you don't see them, it's just because we're behind the camera, not because we're in another room.
I don't see you doing Igor soup cans, Kristen. Okay, I see no videos of you doing soup. My parents do it. Okay, so
she's behind the computer.
Screen. Have you seen him work out? Do you think there's any space next to him? Do I want a soup can flying on my head? I have to be on the other side where I'm safe.
I don't know. My whole family does it. We have collisions that take place.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't want to be hit by him. You've seen him fly doing that and shoot it up Superman.
Did you do the shoot the duck into the front?
I do the stepping one. Where do you think he gets the modifications? From me.
He does not modify anything.
They can't do that. What are you doing? Slow it down.
And did you count because he cannot count?
He only stopped counting on that one.
That was
no, he can't count his normal push-ups. Either he's not going all the way down, or I don't know. I can't see because I'm doing it, but it's not the normal speed. So
here's what you need to know. When he starts counting faster, that's because it's hard.
Yeah.
He wants it to be over. He's like, "Ooh, I'll get one, and then he's done." If it's easy, that's when he kind of counts slowly and. Yeah.
So, well, thank you both so much for coming on. Everyone can join your classes at krigordance.com and your Facebook page.
Yes.
And we will see you tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dave. Thank you. Good night.
All right. Good night, everyone.